The Ottomans are the best nation to learn the game, at least according to Europa itself. The game recommends you start as the Ottomans for being the easiest nation. So today, I'm going to guide you through how to play these guys in a beginner-friendly way. I don't normally do beginner-friendly guides, but I recently did one as Brandenburg, and you guys really enjoyed that. So I'm hoping you guys will enjoy this as well. If you do, please consider subscribing. We're getting closer and closer to that 20k mark. But with that out of the way, let's get into this guide. We'll start by deleting some forts here. We're just going to go ahead and remove the fort here just because it's kind of a weird place for it, and we're going to remove the fort here. As we're going to conquer this province here, and it already has a fort, so it's kind of redundant to have that as well. And this fort also, I don't think it's too useful. I'm also going to remove the fort here. Forts are more of a defensive option, in my opinion. And so as the Ottomans, you're so strong, you don't really need these defensive options. You're all about being offensive. But I'm going to do the states before we do anything else, just to get these out of the way. I'll go through it and show you how I'm going to do states. We're going to do religious state, the monthly admin privilege, and then the primacy of the lemma for the monthly mill power. I'm not going to get the diplo power until the end of the first war. Let me show you guys that in a minute. If you drop your crown land below 10, you're going to take a pretty big penalty in autonomy. Basically, you're going to lose value out of all your provinces over time, and you can dig yourself into a really bad hole. I don't recommend going below 10% crown land if you can avoid it, or if you do, you want to make sure it's only for a short time. Anyhow, we're going to continue with our privileges. I like oversight just for the equilibrium. The reason is because if your equilibrium is above 50, when you seize land, you won't get rebels. So my idea here is that I want this to be over 50. Right now it's 41. So we're going to grant a few more things. I'm going to do religious diplomats because it's just super solid for the diplo rep and makes other people like you. Then I like to do grant local resident to scholar here and pick the Hanbali school because it gives you AE impact so you can conquer more land without penalties. So we'll go ahead and just invite that scholar. And we'll continue our states. Going to do increased levies. Very solid for the manpower. And I like supremacy here. It basically does oversight, but for all three estates. So it's just a buff to equilibrium and influence across the board. For the Merchants Guild, we're going to hold off on Land of Commerce. We're going to grant Patronage of the Arts, indebted to the Merchants Guild, just for some extra cash. And then Free Enterprise, which again is just 10 influence and 10 loyalty, nothing special. So I'll go ahead and seize land here. Then I'm going to get rid of the Dhimmi privilege because I want to be able to convert provinces. And if you have this, then you're not going to be able to convert super easily. Go ahead and just start auto-converting. You can see our equilibrium is still above 50 there, so it should be okay. You can see the Janissaries need a little bit of loyalty. I'm just going to go ahead and grab them 2 privileges for one of our missions. I'll do loyalty to the Solnit, and I'll do a Janissary celibacy. So now we're just going to work through our mission tree. Our first mission is Aftermath of Varna. So we're going to need 30,000 more troops and at least 2 generals. We start with 1 general, so we're just going to go ahead and recruit another. And then we're going to need 30,000 troops, so we just need to grab at least 2,000 more guys. So what I like to do is just scroll down here and see if there's any good siege pip generals. They just help you siege faster. In this case, nothing's above a 3, so I'll probably just grab the free company. However, I would probably grab some mercs if there was a 3 siege guy, just to make things faster. For advisors, just grab any level 1. You can prefer things like stab cost. If there's a diplo guy in the diplo category, you can grab that. Otherwise, just grab whatever one. And don't grab a mill advisor, because you're going to get an event that gives you a half-off mill advisor, and will also give you cannons, but we'll get to that in just a moment. However, for rivals, let's set Venice, the Mamluks, and Hungary, because we're planning to fight all 3 of those in the future. So we're going to unpause, and we should get an event pretty soon. The Victor of the Varna Crusade. Go ahead and click that. That's just going to give you claims. We also got this event I mentioned earlier, the half-off advisor. Go ahead and hit this top option here. Then we can go ahead and sign that half-off advisor right here. And that's going to complete a mission for us, the Guns of Urban. This allows you to get cannons early as the Ottomans, which makes them super powerful. We also can grab this Aftermath of Varna. That's going to give us claims. We got claims on Athens, Byzantium, and Epirus, which are all wars we're going to want to do. So we're kind of just following our mission tree, and that's going to be our path to success. So we want to declare war on the 11th of December just as soon as we can. So go ahead and unpause at that date. Depending on your luck, Byzantium may or may not be allied to some other nation. It doesn't really matter to you, though. So I'll just go ahead and make the war goal Constantinople and declare. What I recommend doing is just send your 19,000 guys directly into his army. Maybe reinforce with your free company or your other merc group that you hired. Then send the other 14,000 to deal with Wallachia. Or whoever might be his ally. So you might see him ally to Serbia, maybe Ragusa. Whatever the case may be, you have plenty of guys. You shouldn't really have any problems. And I'm going to go ahead and consolidate my navy and just hire an admiral. And then we can go over here. Sometimes you got to be careful with this if you ally as Genoa, because you might run into him having more ships than you. Speaking of ships, we actually want to recruit a bunch of galleys. So I'm just going to shift left click until I can't. Okay, so we got 24 galleys on the way. And we got another mission here. But one thing that I forgot to do is this mission here to have 10 Janissary regiments. These guys are good at assaulting, but they're kind of expensive. So what I like to do is just click 10 of them and then complete the mission here. This mission gives you morale. Grab that, and then we can grab this for having the 2 janissary privileges as well. And then we can just go ahead and consolidate these guys. And I'll just go ahead and merge these guys and get rid of them. I want to use them later, but for now I don't want to have to pay for them. And one thing to consider is that you have cannons. You could barrage, but you don't really need to. So if you're impatient, you can, but there's really, there's not really a benefit of doing so. And if you didn't get rivaled to Poland, I would recommend improving relations with him. He's not a bad ally to have, and generally you don't really want his land. France can also be a good ally if you want, or Burgundy, just really depends what you're looking for. Well, I think France could be a decent ally, so we'll improve relations with him, and maybe we'll ally to him after the war. So we finished the siege of Constantinople, that's good. You're going to get this event here, and you want to hit the top option. The bottom option would just make them a subject, and you don't really want that. So we're just going to go finish out this war. Now, I wouldn't recommend sieging Athens because you don't really need to, it's just a waste of your time. Instead, you want to siege Moria. And you can send your ships in to help with that siege as well. You siege faster if you can blockade the port, of course. Now, once we siege a fort in Wallachia, he might just be willing to leave. Or we might need to go one more. It looks like we need to go one more. We'll just send our 14,000 guys into his 7,000. Pretty simple. And whenever you get an event like this, if it's between Mystic and Legalism, go ahead and pick Mystic. Because you can use Mystic to recover manpower. I'll show you guys that later. And whenever you stand on the capital of another nation to the war, they oftentimes want to leave. So what I'm going to do is white peace these guys. Then I'm going to wait the month tick, and I'm actually going to guarantee these guys' independence because I want to kill them myself. So proclaim guarantee. Whenever I click on Hungary and look at his diplomatic feedback, I can see that he wants the land over here as well as my land. So I'm going to guarantee Bosnia so that they can't get killed either. And don't worry if you go over your relation limit. Right now I'm fine, but if you're a couple over your relation limit, it's not a big deal. We're just going to kind of let this war end. We're going to go down and help out. Maybe we'll kill these guys once they siege. We could potentially look to fight Epirus too if we wanted to, but I want to keep it simple for you guys. So we're not going to do more than one war at the same time. Although you definitely could if you wanted. But we'll go this mission here. It gives us a nice admiral. This is just for recruiting a couple ships. So we'll see that admiral's a little better. I'm going to try to capture some ships over here. Just anytime you can do ship battle are nice. You can also control and then box to just grab your ships. And that way we can kind of send them all in here. Once we have them here, we're just going to box and merge. And now that I have a couple ships, I want to see if I can get a flagship. So we'll go ahead and do that. I like to do flagship cannons, fleet blockade impact, and fleet morale. So now that siege is done, I'm going to go ahead and bring down his army. I want to kill his army anyways because they're just going to turn into rebels if not. So there we go. Those guys are dead. We're just going to go for the full annexation. Go ahead and fully annex him and his vassal and get max money. Always good to get max money in a war. This doesn't really hurt in any way, so it's just always good to do. Now, you're not going to want to core things up straight away. You're first going to want to integrate Galata if you can, and then you're going to want to make Constantinople capital. That way you're not paying to core it. Now that that's done, we can go ahead and core up the provinces. If you want to wait to reduce your war exhaustion, you can, because it does make these a little bit more expensive to core. It's just up to you. I'm not going to. But I can go ahead and grab the City of World's Desire now. And to get my next mission done, I'm going to need to own Epirus. That's going to be my main focus. So on this one, I'm going to have to fight Cyprus and Ragusa. What I recommend doing is always check if you can co-belligerate without it adding any extra opponents. So we can do that with Ragusa. If we try it with Cyprus, it would add in the Mamluks, and we don't want to do that. So it's going to leave it with just Ragusa co-belligerated. So we'll go ahead and declare that war. Our navy should be plenty capable here. We've been building ships, and anytime you capture a ship, that's useful too. We can also grab a naval policy if we'd like. For our naval policy, I either like the shipboarding to capture ships or the Great Turkish Navy, which gives you increased naval force limit and ship cost. You know what? We might as well go with the Great Turkish Navy just because it's unique to the Ottomans, and that's fun to play with unique stuff, in my opinion. Gonna go ahead and remove this fort we got here, and we're gonna leave the fort in here in Constantinople. So you can see we got some naval combat here, and we're just capturing more and more ships. That looks good. You can see here we're blockading the port as well, so it's helping us siege down the province faster. So right now I only have 12 transport ships, so I want to try to increase that after the war. You want to be able to carry a full stack of your guys at once. As you can see here, now I'm only 11.6 versus 7. I'd rather be 20 or 19 versus 7. Obviously, we're still going to win, but, you know, for the future, it'd be better to be able to land all our guys. And anytime they don't have an actual fort, they'll have a garrison under 1,000. I just like to barrage assault. Doesn't make a difference if you do it with a naval or otherwise. You shouldn't take many losses. You don't need to do this. It's just something you can do if you have the extra points and don't mind losing the manpower. So not something I'd recommend doing every time. Just pick and choose. I have improved relations with both Poland and France, so I should be able to ally those guys after the war. I still need to deal with Cyprus, so we need to go and sail over there. I would always try to prioritize using your cannons over any of your other armies. Go and send our guys over here. So you can see we have a real fort here. We have a 3,000 garrison. So we could barrage, but we don't want to assault because we would take huge losses. And even if we have call for peace or a conditional surrender, it's not a big deal. We'll go ahead and white peace Cyprus. It's important we don't annex him. He's going to be useful later, and I'll show you guys why in a bit. We'll go ahead and annex Epirus and Ragusa. And if Ragusa wasn't in the war, it doesn't really matter. The important part here is that you're annexing Epirus, because this gets our mission down here, Reign in Greece. So we can go ahead and get this Reign in Greece mission. This one's really nice because it gives you negative 20 years of separatism. This means that there's not going to be rebel issues to deal with as much in those regions. I'm going to group my ships here, and I'm going to build a couple more cogs. As I mentioned, I want to be able to carry my entire army in one stack. I'm actually going to move one of my infantry over here to have an even 20. I like even numbers. 12, 4, 4 is 20,000 guys. I'm actually going to get rid of these other guys here because I don't have any manpower. And I feel like I don't have the manpower to maintain 2 stacks. The idea is that I'm going to rely more on mercenaries and then just have this 1 stack of normal infantry. But make sure you, of course, full state up everything you core. And we can go ahead and get Mil 4 ahead of time because we're pretty insane with military. We get 15 a month right now. And now that we have that army gotten rid of, we actually make a good bit of money, so that's good. So with the Ottomans, be careful with coalitions because obviously that's going to be a roadblock for you. I'd recommend adding a coalition map and kind of taking a look. And you can see here, we're getting kind of aggressive in Europe. So what I like to do is shift my conquest and fight a different religion. Coalitions work with religions, so since we had conquered a bunch of Christian land, we're going to go and conquer a bunch of Sunni land, kind of splitting up that aggressive expansion, as AE is very tied to religion. So we're going to look at our options here. This guy we have a truce with for another year, so he would be a good option. And this guy is just allied to 1 person, so we're going to go ahead and look to do that. We can see he has no other allies as well, so that's perfect war for us. Go ahead and declare that. We always want to utilize our navy if we can, so we can go ahead and blockade up here, and that should be fairly easy. We can even grab our merc group and help, and we could hire more mercs if we were worried ever in these wars. For now, we're not really too worried, though. I meant to grab my alliances that I keep forgetting to do, but after this war, for sure, right? And if one of these guys was allied to the Mamluks, I would recommend trying to find the war that isn't the Mamluk War. So, for example, if Adana was allied to the Mamluks, you would just not co-belligerate him and then take his land anyways. Though, of course, that will depend on your RNG. And I'd recommend trying to be patient. Like, don't barrage assault unless you feel like you need to. And when it's time to repay the loans, just extend them all. No big deal. Just like to get some inflation, but that it can be dealt with later. Not a big deal. So I'm going to grab full annexation with these 2 nations and a bit of cash. And a good recommendation, anytime you don't know who you should attack or who you have claims on, just click a province and hit Q. You can see where we have claims here by the kind of stripes. So basically we have claims over here and claims over here. But we know we're a little bit aggressive over here, so we want to not do that yet, and we're just going to continue to focus on the land over here. Always best to look at all your options too, so I'd recommend, like, we need to look at both these wars and see what we're looking at. So this one, we got to fight him and his and Kaifa, which wouldn't be hard. And this one, we got to fight him and Shervin, which again would not be hard. So we have 2 good options. In general, I always recommend going for the easier targets first, building up, and then going after the big nations. But I'm going to go ahead and go to war with Carmen. Again, we should always check to co-belligerate. In this case, it would bring in a bunch of other people, so we don't want that. So we'll not do that. We'll just go ahead and declare the war, and we'll make sure we have a general there, and just should be a nice and easy war. One thing to know is that when you're Mil 4, you have a huge advantage over someone that's Mil 3. So it should be pretty easy to fight anyone. And as the Ottomans, you're going to get Mil 4 before anyone else. So you kind of have a window where you're going to be super powerful. You'll have this again when you're Mil 6 and they're Mil 5, so keep that in mind. So we're just going to look to finish those guys off. Then we're going to have to go after his ally. Again, we can use our boats to blockade the port, make it the siege a bit faster. See, now we have 20 transport ships, so we're going to be able to carry our stack properly, which I think is really nice. And don't be afraid of being a bit over forceful with your navy. You can see that's not really costing me that much money. Here we don't have enough to siege their fort. We only have 8,000 guys, so we're going to have to bring our other stack over. And the way it works is if it's a real fort, you're going to need 9,000 guys, and if not, then I believe you need only 3,000. But we'll send our stack of 20 over there. So I'm going to go ahead and send my ships over to the Caspian Sea to blockade. Kidding, guys. So for secondary targets in the war, I like to get prestige, if possible. You can end rivalries, and then maybe war ups and money. You can see here we're going to gain 12 prestige. Prestige is helpful because it gives you aggressive expansion impact and improved relations. Those 2 things help you avoid coalitions. So prestige is probably the best thing to avoid coalitions. Anyhow, we're going to go back and fully annex Carmen, get max money as usual. So now we have this kind of 3-fort situation, and I like these 3 forts, so I wouldn't remove them straight away. Basically, it forces the enemy to have to deal with your forts before getting to you. When I say you, I kind of mean your capital. But we got a mission down here, conquer the Beyliks. It's going to give us permanent claims on Anatolia. And if you don't know what that means, again, just go ahead and hit Q. So you can see this is where the claims are. So we're going to full core up everything, and always make sure we're stating up everything as well. We want to be paying for those states. And I think it's not a bad idea to go ahead and focus admin after a little bit, because your military is just so far ahead. Now that we're back above 20 crown land, it wouldn't be a bad idea to grab that third mana privilege that we didn't do earlier. The idea here is that I want to stay above a 10 at all times, so my autonomy doesn't get put in a bad spot. We do need to deal with these rebels, though. I'm going to look for a national arrest advisor in admin to help with the rebel situation, so we're just going to go fire people until we find one. It's level 2, but we're okay with that. We're not super happy, but I think it'll be okay. As the Ottomans, you don't really need to worry about money too much, but just be somewhat careful. It's not a bad idea to mothball your forts when you're not at war, although we're going to be at war a lot, so at the same time, it's probably not that useful. Before I go to my next war, I want to look at the coalition map and kind of look at the situation here. You can kind of see we're getting a little bit aggressive down here. Not too bad. But we kind of got to just keep that in mind at all times. It's not a bad idea to find an improved relations advisor, so I'll probably do that. Fire this guy, look for an improved relations advisor. So there we go, improved relations. So I'm going to grab Mill 5 here and Diplo 4. Replace my units here. Just pay attention to your rebels. What I recommend is either you raise autonomy or you deal with rebels personally. So you can just go ahead and provoke them before you get into too many other wars. So I'll just go ahead and provoke here. So we have rebels over here, and we don't really want to deal with those. So I'm going to sell my troops over to Ragusa to deal with those rebels real quick. Because I know that's going to be a problem later if I don't deal with it. Let's go ahead and provoke those. And let's grab those allies that we've been putting off. So Poland and France. France doesn't want to ally anymore. That's okay. Probably could have allied him earlier, but I kind of forgot to. Can also try to improve with Castile. He might rival you sometimes, but sometimes it's a weird alliance that can actually be pretty beneficial. RNG is going to be different in your game. Just, I like to ally someone that I don't want to murder straight away. Think of it like that. Also going to collect trade from Ragusa just to get improved relations. So I'll grab the guy from Alexandria and go ahead and just establish communities. This will be worse for your economy, but better for your AE impact, and I think that's more important in this case. Anyhow, let's continue our conquest over here. Dulkadir should be a good target. He was just allied to Hisan Kaifa, so pretty easy war. So I'll just go ahead and declare on Dulkadir. We got an event here. We're going to go with the Mystic side. You can look at that in the religion to see where you're at. You need negative 75 to grant the manpower. That's what we're going to be trying to shoot for. So we're going to go siege down Hisan Kaifa. We're going to go ahead and curry favors with Poland. Grab admin 4. I'm just going to go ahead and get some war ups, transfer trade, and money from Hisan Kaifa. You can do this to anyone that you essentially can't take the land from, and you already have max prestige. So just get some money and some value there if you can. And anytime you get an event that is like Decadence or something else, just pick Decadence because it's not a mechanic that matters for the first couple hundred years of the campaign. I recommend just putting the Real Corruption slider to max. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Colonization here. So if we go and press Q, look at our claims, we can either attack this way or attack this way, and we should go to our AE map and kind of just assess that situation. We're about 30-ish over here. It's starting to cool down over here too. You can see that we're not very aggressive only to these closer nations. But it looks like going left might be the way. Europe gets very upset when you take land, so oftentimes just kind of good to go chip away and then, you know, take a break and then come back later. That's kind of what I like to do. So my options in this war, I could attack Serbia, who is being guaranteed by Hungary, or I could attack Venice, who has quite a few allies. I always recommend in general looking around and seeing what your options are. So we know we have to fight Hungary over here. We know that would be somewhat difficult, but not impossible. Then we can look over here and address this. This would be a jam, and that's kind of difficult. So just always good to look around and see what your options are. So in my game, it looks like Hungary stopped guaranteeing Serbia. I was going to fight that war regardless because he's Tech 3 and I'm Tech 5. So I would have had a massive advantage, and I would have preferred to show you guys that, but unfortunately the RNG didn't go that way for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and declare war on Serbia, co-belligerate Bosnia. And if I was fighting Hungary, I would go for him first to get him out of the war, just for a note. Again, I would have preferred to show you that, but RNG is RNG. But we're just going to go ahead and siege these guys down. They'll probably group up at some point, but again, we have a tech advantage. Unfortunately, Bosnia is getting attacked by Hungary. And one trick that I've been using is I guaranteed Bosnia, but I was able to co-belligerate him because I attacked who I wasn't guaranteeing. That being said, Hungary's trying to steal this war, and I don't appreciate that. So I'm going to try to rush in there and stop him. So Hungary took a bunch of land over here, and that's not great for us. But it's good to see situations like this because RNG didn't go our way. So now we're going to have to deal with that. Ideally, we would have got all this land, and then we wouldn't have to fight Hungary. I think it might be better to show you guys what to do in situations like this anyways, so I'm not too upset that happened. So I'm going to go ahead and get full annexation from both these guys here. Check your coalition anytime, make sure it's nothing too crazy. Right now it's only 4 nations, so I'm not really worried about that. What I'm going to do here is just go ahead, go to our diplomacy, click our nation, and release Bosnia, because they'll have reconquest cores. against Hungary, which will be good. But otherwise, I'm going to core up the provinces. Again, you could be releasing nations and alienating and stuff like that, but we're not going to focus too much on that aspect this run. I just want to keep it simple for you guys. But going to go ahead and full state up any land we can. Continue to full state. Just looking at our coalition map mode, we're getting a little bit more aggressive in Europe, but nothing too bad. You can see we kind of got Naples upset, and they're getting a little upset down here as well. So what we can do is improve relations with some of the people that are starting to get upset if we'd like. So let's go ahead and improve with some people I don't want to coalition me. So I'm improving with Naples and Akyunlu. Make sure we're seizing land on cooldown, even if we have to fight rebels. Not a huge problem. It'll be smarter if I kind of split up my guys before I seize land, so that I have a more chance to get to them. You will lose some crown land if they do siege the provinces, though. So it's better to have you guys a little bit more split than I did. Hungary's claiming on Herzegovina as well. It's not great for us. Actually going to go ahead and just declare on Hungary, call in Poland, and I'll go for the reconquest. I don't want to let him take Herzegovina as well. I'm going to make sure when I take these provinces, I give them occupancy over to Bosnia, so it's going to be less aggressive for him to take them, because they're his rightful cores. I also have Admin 5, which means I can pick an idea group. I'm going to hold off on going into Diplo 4 just so I can focus on ideas. And I have a ton of options here as far as what ideas will be good. It really just depends on what you're trying to do in your campaign. I could take admin to core things more, or if I was relying more on aylets and subjects, I could do influence, or I could do espionage, diplomatic. There's really all sorts of viable ideas here. I'll go with espionage since I want to conquer into Europe. But again, there's lots of viable choices. But I do believe getting state propaganda would be pretty huge. And I can also grab the justified wars here. So we just added a plus 30% AE impact. So that's pretty helpful. Again, I'm not necessarily recommending espionage. I'm just kind of recommending that you tailor your idea set to your game more so. If your goal is to conquer a bunch in Europe, then espionage is great. But if it's not, then probably pick something else. I like influence a lot if I'm going aylet heavy. So you can see Hungary got a bunch of land over here, which is kind of annoying for us. But now Wallachia is willing to help, so I can co-belligerate him and go to that war. So Hungary just being a bit of a menace over here, taking land that I don't really want him to take. I probably should have warned Hungary, thinking back about it, but hindsight's 2020. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab colonization from Wallachia and Herzegovina, core up those provinces. This is a nice mountains fort that I would recommend keeping. Also, you do have gold here in Kosovo if you want to dev it. We're looking to do this mission here, but we don't want to take any of Hungary's provinces because we have a mission to aylet him for free later. So we don't want to take anything more than we need to from Hungary. So in this war from Hungary, I'm just going to take the two provinces that should have been Bosnia's that I would have had otherwise, and then these two that would have been Wallachia's. I'm planning to aylet Hungary later, so I don't really want to take much of his land because it's kind of no point. So I'm just going to take the 4 provinces here and call it good. No money. I want a short truce. And you can see here, I'm trying to shoot for this mission right in Greece, and there is 4 provinces from Venice to snag, and then the 2 from Albania. So I don't really need anything more from Hungary. Go ahead and core that up. And I'm going to remove some forts if I don't really feel like I need them. But I'll keep this mountain fort. Those are always useful. I'm going to take this time to get rid of my mercs and hire up some of those janissaries, because they're really good at assaulting. So I'm going to hire up 12 of them. And then I'm going to move the rest of my army with those janissaries. And then I'm just going to recruit 4 more horses to round out that other army. So we have an army of 16 and an army of 20 now. And again, don't be afraid of taking loans. That's future use problem. Current you doesn't even care. Go ahead and mothball forward since we're not at war. Whenever you recruit janissaries, it's going to be super expensive to reinforce them, and that's just kind of normal. So that's why we're losing so much money at the moment, but it shouldn't be that bad in a second here. We'll go ahead and curry favors with Crimea because I know that we can get them as a subject if we have a little bit of trust for our mission. Go and do that. And that's the mission here, Crimean Destiny. And since we've been somewhat aggressive in Europe, we're going to just go back, kind of doing this kind of ping pong back and forth, spreading out our aggressive expansion a bit. We got the Renaissance now. We actually probably should have embraced the institution a while ago, but it's something that I forgot. What you should do, that I failed to do a bit earlier, is go to your diplomacy mode and go to economy and look for knowledge sharing. And you can probably like improve relations with somebody like Siena. I could even throw an alliance to Siena, and I'm sure that he would be more than happy to give me that institution. So go here and just ask Siena for knowledge sharing. We're going to grab efficient spies, and that's going to give us the CCR 25%, which is super good. Totally balanced. Continuing to seize land on cooldown. And we didn't spread up our guys again, so we never learn. The rebels have this way of spawning up the furthest away from your units as possible. Probably a conspiracy, but it's something that I kind of believe is real. We got to re-invite our scholar again. Just invite that guy back. Got our tier 2 government reform. We're going to grab the DevSherm system. And this one's a little sneaky. You have to go into your government and scroll down to see these buttons. When I first played them, I had like no idea how to get these to work. You scroll down and you kind of look at the bonuses. The middle one gives you possible advisor and diplo advisor costs, as well as a cheaper advisor. I don't really need that right now, so I'm not going to use that. And this one over here gives you every own heathen province gains -10 autonomy, which can be very useful. If you don't know what heathen means, you can highlight over this and see all the religions that qualify as heathens. Basically just means people outside your religious group. You can highlight the heretics here to see that Shia in a body are the only ones that are heretics. So it's going to be super useful to use this because it's going to lower autonomy and make you more money. So I recommend clicking that when it's going to be useful. We also have a mission here that we should be working on, and it's the Pasha. And to do this, you just go to a province and go to the state, and you can assign Pasha. The mission wants you to assign Pashas in places that aren't in your capital region, so we can go over here and just assign as many as possible. Stuff has to be cored for this to work, of course. So I'm just assigning it everywhere at the moment. So far, you can see our mission is 33 out of 50 provinces. So yeah, the culture has to be not Levantine. So you can see if we go to the culture map mode, just basically anything that's not this light blue should be good. So Europe is definitely good for that. We'll just continue to conquer as we go. We could improve relations with Bosnia to eventually annex him. So currently the Mamluks are kind of murdering these guys down here, and we want to murder those guys. But we could look for another war down here. Again, I'm just going to select Q and see what provinces they want me to take down here. So I know I need to take kind of these 3 nations. Technically also Korkunlu. One thing to keep in mind is I am Mil 6, so I have a huge advantage right now. And I can do this Crimean Destiny thing now that Crimea likes me a bit more. That'll make him to a march. What I'm going to do is just immediately revoke that march and then promote to Ailit. And then we'll go ahead and reign in Ailit. Now they basically just provide me manpower and money and don't exist otherwise. But I got some rebels on the way, so I'm going to just prepare for that. I'm kind of waiting for the Mamluks to do the war here so I can see how that resolves. I might be able to attack the Mamluks if they take the land because there's claims there. So you can see the Mamluks did take land here, and I do have claims. So it's a good opportunity for me to go to war with the Mamluks. But again, I have these rebels I want to deal with, so I'm going to go around and provoke some rebels first because I don't want the rebels popping out in the middle of the war. I'm going to go ahead and provoke in Bosnia. So I know I have this huge advantage over the Mamluks, so it's a good time to go to war with them. And Hungary integrated Croatia, that's just what we want. Unfortunately, Austria got Hungary. I think that's okay to show because it's going to show the run having not optimal RNG, so it's not a big deal. So where we otherwise could have gotten Hungary for free, now we're going to have to fight Austria for them. So I think that should be a little more interesting for you guys. At any rate, we're going to go to war with the Mamluks. It looks like their allies aren't willing to help them at the moment. I guess they all like me, so not a big deal. We'll just go ahead and declare that war. And you can see it looks like they have a lot more guys than me. But again, I have that military advantage, so it kind of invalidates any advantage they have. So I kicked off this war here. And I'm just going to be heading down and sieging out a bunch of land. I'm going to use my ships over here. And I can just go ahead and hunt enemy fleets as my mission. Should be fine. I think my navy is plenty good to do that. We can capture some ships along the way. This war looks kind of hard. It's really super easy, though. We'll have to see how they choose to fight it. Unfortunately, Cyprus got vassalized. A good thing you can do is use Cyprus to refresh the truce, because oftentimes he'll just be guaranteed by the Mamluks. And so basically, I could have just attacked the Cyprus after the war and then white peace these guys for a reset of truce. But again, that's not possible here. Although he did grant independence for Medina, so maybe I can do a similar thing with Medina if I can get a claim on them, but that might be kind of difficult. So far, I have not seen any signs of resistance from the Mamluks. I think that they're not too interested in fighting against me. I got some unfortunate rebels. I'm going to have to loan and merc up. Again, don't be afraid of loans. I know it sounds scary to get in debt, but my logic on loans and telling you guys to take loans is you need to get comfortable with how many loans you can take reasonably. So sometimes it's kind of better to learn what too many loans is like firsthand. So I recommend just kind of going crazy with it, and you'll figure out what that looks like. You'll be like, oh, well, that was too many loans. That's game. GG. Think of taking loans as limit testing. You have to know how many you can take. It might sound like bad advice to give to a newer player to take loans, but I actually think it's a great learning tool. So I'm just going to hard focus my idea group, and I'm going to ignore teching up. You can see here I'll get behind, but I don't really mind. So here's the Ottoman's entire army. I'm going to show you guys what Tech 6 looks like if they choose to fight me. So I'm just going to run at them here. So here you can see that they're just kind of running. They know what's going to happen, but you can see these 16,000 guys are going to be absolutely decimated here. I didn't even get to reinforce, and you can see that I lost, 2,500. They lost close to 8,000. So you can see the tech difference is just massive. I'm going to send some guys up to Cyprus because it has a fort, and I figure that would be good to get that dealt with. Again, I wish Cyprus wouldn't have been his vassal, but unfortunately I can't just wish that to come true. And grab the institution is just super expensive, so we're not going to do that yet. So in this war, I'm going to grab my claims, so I can just press Q again and see these here. But then I'm also going to grab 5 provinces for a mission. And the mission I'm referring to is defeat the Mamluks, where they want me to have one of the following provinces being this province here or this province here. I'm not sure the significance of this province. Let me know in the comments. I know this is Jerusalem, but I'm curious to know what this is or what the significance of this is. At any rate, my plan is to actually take a snake down here to reset the truce. So what I'm going to do is actually look to spy network this guy, because I want to reset the truce with the Mamluks. So I'll go ahead and end this war. I'm just taking my claims here and here, and then a path down to Medina. This should complete our mission, defeat the Mamluks, and we'll just need to make sure that we go to war within the next 50 years, which is plenty of time, and then we'll be able to get them for free, and I'll show you that in a minute. It's all part of your mission tree. I'm feeling pretty confident that I don't need these forts anymore, so I'm going to get rid of them, just to save a bit of money. I'm pretty much the dominant power in this region, and I don't think anyone else is going to be able to contest me. I'll leave the fort in Constantinople, get rid of the fort over here. So I just have the fort over here and a fort in my capital, and that's it. And go ahead and mothball those. So I'm currently fabricating a claim on Medina just to make the Mamluks truce shortened. So you can see the truce with the Mamluks right now would end in 1484, but that's super long away. Suppose I already have a claim on the province. I didn't realize from my last mission, so I don't even need to fabricate a claim. Go ahead and declare war on them. You can see the Mamluks will be here. What we're going to do in this war is just go for the Mamluks capital quickly. We want to shorten that truce, so we can go ahead and just go for a barrage assault. We have a lot of manpower. You can see the Mamluks want out of the war straight away after that, so we're just going to white peace them. So that brings our truce down to 1476. So I think that saves us something like 10 years as far as being able to fight him again, so just pretty useful. We don't really care to take anything from Medina. We can. The point of this war has already been achieved, but I suppose we might as well just barrage assault this. Again, it has no garrison or a low garrison. If you have a lot of mill points like we do now, feel free to just barrage. Not necessarily assault, just barrage. You don't want to always assault. It's going to be really costly to your men. Also remember, your guys are especially good at assaulting. They have plus 50% assault ability. So again, play around with this. Sometimes you have to send your guys into a bad assault to know what the limits are. So it's, again, one of those things that if you're a newer player, I'd recommend, like, try things that you don't know will work to see what happens. So I'll just send an assault for you guys here just to kind of demonstrate what might happen. You can see that we took quite a bit of losses there, but still, maybe it's not so bad. So kind of just play around with it yourself. I feel like failure is the greatest teacher in EU4. I'm just gonna take these two provinces in the war. All right, so we're planning to go back to fight the Mamluks in a few years. We want them to annex Syria first, though, which I think they're actively doing, so that should be fine. Probably want to leave some guys down here to deal with the rebels. So again, just kind of driving home the point, press Q and figure out what you have claims on for the next war. So attacking over here would be viable, and attacking over here would also be viable. Since I'm pretty low on aggressive expansion, you can see my coalition map mode. I'm going to go to Europe and take some land there. Again, always just going for this kind of ping-pong strategy, keeping it simple. And for the fate of the Holy City, I recommend the bottom option because you get idea costs at the end of the game. But if you want to upgrade the rate project, you can click the top one. But I prefer the idea costs at the end of the game. I'm going to seize land here. We're going to see rebels. I try to split my guys a bit better this time, you can see. So hopefully it's a bit better. I'm going to go ahead and annex Bosnia now. Can do the integration policy. Go here and grab that. That way you don't get a Diplo penalty when we annex them. Now I'm going to let my navy repair because I've gathered a lot of ships in that war. If I was really worried about money, I could develop the gold. Something to consider. For example, if I wanted to throw, a few points in, I could. You probably want to encourage dev first. I'm usually not too stressed with money though when it comes to EU4, but if you guys are, feel free to do that. And we've expanded a lot since we started the game, so you can refinance. And to know whether or not that'd be worth, if you see a loan here that's like 100 at this point, and you can take 300 loans, you probably know it's time. And what you should do is pay off your 1% loans first. That way you can get new 1% loans. Go to the Merchant Guild, indebted, and that way we can go ahead and pay off some loans. But what I'm going to do actually is embrace the institution. That way I can get Tech 7 and more cannons. Could also grab Tech 6, I suppose. So I'm going to add cannons to the stack here. Let's go ahead and repay off some of our other loans now. So you want to start with the lowest cost loans first, because you got to pay interest no matter what. So it still looks a bit better. 13 loans isn't really too bad. Nothing that I'm really concerned about. So you set new rivals. We can rival Austria and I suppose France. Unfortunately, we could never befriend him. We did try. I guess we can ally to Castile now, so why not? Maybe he has Aragon, so he's actually kind of a useful ally if I wanted to fight France. I could get Poland to help with Venice, so I'm going to try to get him to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask to prepare for war. He's still just a little ways off, so I'm going to go ahead and just trade favors for trust. Let's go ahead and just do that once, and then we should be good to go. Now, I'm 2 tech levels above Venice. So again, that's kind of the big advantage of the Ottomans, is you're always tech levels ahead of people because you start with such a good ruler. He was a 646 to start, but he got an event. But anyhow, you can get pretty good heirs usually. So the Ottomans are kind of carried by their starting ruler being so good. But I want to make the war goals something pretty easy for these guys. Though I have prepared a navy to fight these guys as well. So just go ahead and declare war in Venice, call in Poland, and then we're just going to go for the war goals straight away. And again, we should have a pretty nice navy with a flagship, so we should easily be able to beat his navy. Naval dominance is very important when you fight Venice, because if not, you're never getting to his capital, and it's hard to really get a ton of war score if you can't do that. I got a bit of luck here in my game, and I got Our Cause is Just. This is a chance to happen when you have espionage. But actually, I don't want you guys to rely on RNG, so I'm actually going to Alt F4 that, so it undoes that event. So I reloaded my game because I didn't want to have the extra AE impact. The reason being is because it's RNG that you guys might not get, and I didn't want you guys to rely on some RNG that was crazy in my game, so I decided I would just Alt F4 that. Of course, you wouldn't want to Alt F4 that if you had it in your game. That's what you want, but I don't want to make things unrealistic for you guys as a guide. Let's get our ships out there, though. Let's help the siege out. We got to do that ship battle again, I guess. So we're just crushing his navy. He can't do anything to stop it. Since so far I had a military, I'm going to just order barrages when possible. Not necessarily assaults. And again, I would just recommend only assault when there's not a real fort. So like in this case, a lot of times the capital will not have forts because the AI is stupid, I guess. Not really sure. But I'm just going to murder these guys here. And they should have nowhere to run because I have my boats here. But then I can just barrage assault. I'm just going to grab the improve vortexes here. The leader siege is also good, but since we're being a little irresponsible with the money, might as well raise those vortexes. We also have a lot of rebels to deal with. I wish I would have been a little bit more responsible with my rebels, but it's not a big deal. And for this event, you actually want to lose the stability and pick the top option. You're just going to keep getting the negative events if not. I'm actually not 100% sure on that. It's just what I remember it being. We annexed Bosnia, so that's good. We can probably assign more Pashas for that mission. I think we're getting close to finishing that mission here. 43 of 50, so not bad. I had some bad legitimacy events, so I'm going to actually use some of my mill points to fix that. I'm going to try to grab some prestige from people in the war. It will split with Poland, but I should get plenty. Don't take land in Europe if you didn't co-belligerate, would be my recommendation. They are very particular in Europe, but we're going to try to get our prestige back to 100, which is good. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the knights because they like to raid you, and I just happen to be at war with them. So it's a good opportunity for me to go and murder them. And again, they're kind of far enough away from Europe that that rule mentioned earlier doesn't apply. But especially in Italy and kind of the HRE area, make sure you don't take land you shouldn't. This one's for you guys. Let's see what happens if we assault into a 3,750 garrison. So I just want to show you guys what that might look like. And again, you can shift consolidate when you're assaulting, and that does help. But the point is you probably shouldn't be assaulting into something like that. Just kind of wanted to demonstrate that to you guys. So I did waste a bit of money and manpower just to show you guys that, but it doesn't matter. So I'll get my admin to 7 here, and that gives me a new idea group. And again, this is going to be very dependent on what you're trying to do in your game. Since I'm not using a lot of subjects, admin's going to be a good choice for me. And in general, admin is just an idea group you probably want at some point. Anyhow, let's get back to this war. Might as well grab war ups, trade power money from anybody we can. We're not going to be invading deep into Europe for quite a while, so having truces up here is not really going to be bad. But the knights, we're still sieging them down. Probably would have had them sieged already if we didn't send those men to an early death. So I'm going to separate piece the knights, full annexation money, and we get an event here. And we'll no longer be raided, so that's good. I'm going to show you guys a technique you can use against Venice that could be helpful. Instead of taking land directly from Venice, you can make him release vassals that you can then subjugate. So I'm going to force Venice to release as many nations as possible, and I'm actually just going to take one province here. So I'm really only taking one province for myself here. But now I should be able to vassalize all these people in time. So I'm just going to ally all these people that I just released. They should have good bonus relations with you because you just released them, and they like that. Although you don't want to ally the rivals. So for example, if I ally Verona, make sure that I don't ally Aquileia straight away. And we're going to go ahead and improve relations with these guys. I have one of these guys with cores, so I'm just going to go ahead and sell it to him. So sell province Zeta. Suppose I can get a little bit of money if I want. It's not really a big deal though. I can give knowledge sharing to Poland, sure. A little bit of money. So let's go ahead and start improving relations with some of these guys that I've allied. So I'd recommend deleting forts on an island like this, or Cyprus, just because if you do get rebels there, you don't want them to have a fort when you get there, because you probably forgot about it, and by the time you get there, they're going to have it sieged. Or that could just be me. They do own a Dalmatian core, it looks like, so I'm going to have to give that away. And I don't want to give it to Dalmatia, actually, because it'll be a little too big, so I'll end up giving it to this guy when I vassalize him. It will take a bit to improve those relations, though. So for a minute, I'll just go and turn off my maintenance. Now, if you don't like subjects, you don't need to do this. This is just something I think is a good idea in general. Go ahead and vassalize Crete. And we're going to use Aelits in this case, so we can promote to Aelit and then rein them in. We don't want to go to any other wars probably while we do this, because we don't want any more aggressive expansion or anything like that. And espionage actually has blackmailing that gives better vassalization acceptance, so that's something to consider as well. And so we can use our Muslim interaction here. And there's a cheese to it. If you want to slacken, it gives you way more. So you see I can recover 41k manpower, which is ridiculous if you ask me, but just remember to turn on slackening if you do that. You don't have to do that if it's too cheesy for you too. But for your tier 3, we're going to go ahead and grab the provincial government system. It gives you nice income from vassals. And since we're going to be getting a bunch of aylets here, we might as well do that. Again, I'm trying to provide you some variety with this guide. You could just always aylet, you could go influence, but I kind of didn't want to just show one style of play specifically, so we're going to try to mix in a bunch of different things to show you. Ottomans are one of my favorite nations because they have so many options. Similar to Austria, I feel like you can play them a lot of different ways, depending on what you like. Our leader did die, unfortunately, a bit early. He was only maybe 40s, 50s. So you don't love to see that, but it happens. Again, I'd rather show bad RNG than just always good RNG for a beginner guide. I can vassalize Corfu. I want to quickly explain how aylets work. You can rein them in, and basically, if you don't rein them in, they're almost like allies that can only help you in war. So you can call them into war, but they can also be separate pieced out, which I don't like. So personally, I just prefer to get more money and manpower from them. And basically, if you rein them in, they can't be called to war, but they're just kind of like more valuable. So let me try to explain that better, because it's probably confusing. If you want to be able to call in aylets, don't rein them in. If you want to get more money and manpower, but can't call them into war, then go ahead and rein them in. I would prefer reining them in myself, but you guys should probably experiment with that yourselves. That's kind of, the idea with this guide too, is I'm trying to show you different options that you can explore with. One thing nice about aylets, of course, if you guys don't know, is that they don't count as a Diplo slot penalty, so you can have as many as you want. We are just kind of going through and offer some of these vassals now. And I'm going to give away Ragusa to my subject here. I don't want to have to give it to this guy because he's already kind of big, so he might be harder to vassalize if I did. You can see here he's being a little stubborn. Just one relation away though. So I'm going to trade favors for trust with this guy. That helps improve relations for the vassalization. You can see here we can vassalize him now. We'll go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to continue to promote and rein in vassals as we can. I recommend using the diplomacy map mode for this. It can be helpful. If you go into influence, you can kind of look who you can rein in, look who you can promote to aylet, just a little bit helpful. So I prefer to rein in everyone myself. Again, if you want to be able to use these vassals and be able to call them in, that's up to you. It does cost favors to call them into war, but you generate favors super fast, so it works out. You can see here I'm getting quite a bit of value from just having these guys around, and if I was influence ideas, I would get even more value. You can also ask them to divert their trade, which you might as well do. It is possible to simply vassalize people over in Italy if you want, the OPMs especially, but that's up to you. I'm not going to do that, but it's just an option if you so desire. I'm just going to go after the people that we made Venice release. This button here becomes much more useful now that I have vassals, so I can get more vassal manpower contribution. Once you hit 30 crown land, you can keep seizing land if you want, but I don't necessarily think you need to. It's better if you do, but what I'm saying is feel free to be lazy if you want. Now, what I'd recommend doing if you have more crown land is you could sell titles if you want the money, and then just keep seizing land. My rule of thumb is stay above 20 crown land. That way you're not losing autonomy. You can ask transfer trade power to make your subjects more likely to like you, but this becomes pretty difficult to do as you get more subjects. We're going to go ahead and vassalize this guy here, and go ahead and vassalize Aquila as well. So we basically got all that land without the AE, more or less. That's how I think of it. So I was going to go to war with Albania, but France is actually allied to them, so it makes it kind of annoying. The reason I would have wanted to do that is so I could have reset the truce with Venice. But in this case, it becomes a little bit painful to do now. So I probably will not do that, at least for now. Though I do want Albania's land, they're actually my cores. So what I might look to do is attack the Papal States, because I don't want to fight France. So maybe we'll go ahead and just get claims with the Papal States. But at any rate, we're going to promote these aylets, and we'll go ahead and rein them in. We got adaptability, which is really huge. Once you get adaptability, you can feel free to slow down on these ideas and catch back up on tech if you're behind. The CCR is really what's important about this idea group. One thing interesting about cutting off the Mamluks like this is it kind of ruins them on the rebels. So anytime you really want to cripple a nation, if you just cut off their land from each other, it kind of hurts them a lot. If you can handle the border gore, I know some people get really picky with that. I personally don't care much. I'm going to go for the Ottoman invasion on the Mamluks. And basically you just need to take their capital and then you'll get an event. So I'll probably just barrage but not assault on their capital. Now that we make quite a bit of money, we can feel free to grab the Defender of the Faith. Gives us an extra missionary so we can be converting a little better. And if you get events like this where they want to either lose government reform or stability, I recommend taking the stability hit. You don't necessarily want to be behind on your government reforms. Remember, you can buy stability, but you can't buy reform progress, essentially. This is the way I like to think of it. So once you siege his capital, you're going to get the collapse of the Mamluk Sultanate. And we're just going to go ahead and select the top option because we want them as an aylet. It's also somewhat viable if you want to pick the second option, depending on your play style, if you prefer not to have subjects, because you do get CCR and province force costs. But in this case, we're going to go for the easy option and pick the top option. But again, it's a scenario where it's very versatile how you want to play. Quite a nice air here, 664, I'll take that. So you can see if I right-clicked here, my guys would go around because there's ships there. But if I control right click instead, it'll just send them on the ships basically. So if you control right click, it's just going to have your troops take ships instead, which can be super handy. Something I wish I knew way earlier in my EU4 experience. It's almost capped on mill, but I can't get the next idea. So oftentimes I'll just grab some professionalism, just hire a bunch of generals, and then make sure you get rid of enough. For this event, again, we're going to have to pick the top option. You just have to reach your quota of bad events. They got to nerf you somehow because you're so broken. So they give you annoying events. And the best way to get war score is generally just going for the forts. And of course, holding the war goal. Anytime there's under 1,000, we can feel free to assault. And if you're feeling extra lazy, you can auto-siege. I wouldn't recommend doing that very often. But if you feel like the war is well in hand, you kind of just want to let your guys siege it out and just kind of chill, you can do that. You have to hold his capital for 3 years anyway, so you don't have to be too efficient. No matter what, you'll be in this war for 3 years. His rebels put up more of a fight than he did. It's kind of sad. But I probably should be going after some of his allies in the war. His allies don't really have forts, so it's just easy barrage assault each time. Just go ahead and peace out Yas. I'm going to peace out Adol. Just white peace is fine. I guess I do need a little bit more war score, so we're going to go get that. When I get my Golden Age, I recommend just Golden Aging as soon as you can. The idea being that you want to snowball early, so if it makes you a little stronger earlier, then you'll be able to snowball just a bit sooner. But I need 90 war score to end this war, so I'm just going to kind of flip my guys, do a little bit of sieging, maybe chase down his army here. We just need a tad bit more war score. So we got 90 war score, we got the fall of the Mamluk Sultanate. I'm going to show you guys a little trick you can do. Again, if you don't want to, you don't have to. Play the game how you want to play it, but it's a little cheese where you can go ahead and get max money from him, and then you click the event to white piece him, even though you're technically not at war with him. So a bit of a exploit. Let's go ahead and do that. Then we just select the top option here, and he becomes a subject. So if you want an extra 1,000 ducats, you can do that. And we get an extra missionary because we control Mecca. We also get a mission here to subjugate Egypt, so we get a CB on Tunis. We can just go for that invasion on Tunis next if we want. And grab another age ability, we'll do our leader siege. So I'm going to send those 1,000 ducats that we exploit to get away, because I don't want you guys to rely on exploits if you don't want to. And so I'm just going to randomly send the 1,000 ducats away. Again, it's more of showing you that you can, but I don't want you to rely on it. If you can, keep your stability at 1 for the prosperity. That would be helpful. And what that means is basically you start getting prosperity if you have a good leader, when you have at least 1 stability, or you have a chance to per month. Since we're in a good spot with our crown land, we can go ahead and sell titles and seize land. Again, just try to stay above 20 and you're good. So we could use that extra money to pay off some loans. Let's pay off the higher percent ones. So now we're just down to the 1% loans. We do want to improve relations with our Mamluk Elit. We can eventually seize Mecca if we want it. It does give war score costs for other religions, so that it can be handy. I'm going to go ahead and seize Mecca. Reason being is because it has a nice, great project, and if we seize it this way, it doesn't get downgraded. So if we would have taken in the war, it would have gone down a rank, but because we did it that way, it won't happen, and that just gives us an extra war score cost for other religions because we're Muslim. He'll be a little upset about that, but he'll get over it in time. If we're worried about it, we could just dev him up a little bit, just, throw some of our extra mill points. We could also just do the enable support loyalists, and that'll help as well. I guess I sacked my subject when I helped him unsiege rebels. That's kind of tragic, but what do? You don't really want to do that because it hurts relations. But sometimes the game trolls you like that. I'm just going to grab this province here for my subject. They'll be a little upset, but I can just support loyalists. That way I can claim the Papal States, because it seemed like an easier war than fighting France. There's a lot of people in the war, though, but I really want to fight Albania. Anyone else is just whatever. So I do have some more rebels on the way. We should deal with those first. I'm going to improve with a new Elit. Oh, I need a Diplo advisor with skill 3. Okay. I can grab one for my government interaction here. Oh, opinion at least 100, and then liberty desire below 10. Okay, so that'll be like a month or 2. Okay, so that mission's done there. Is my heir any good? Oh, he's really good. Please don't die. No! I should have prayed for his life. I feel like secretly it's a better luck. Well, this is a nice event. 400 admin points. I'll take that. That also gets us some national tax mod. We love to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and build another stack of guys because we're doing pretty well financially. So I'm going to build Janissaries up to 12 and then just add in 4 horses and 4 cannons. Just that 12 horse stack that I keep returning to, what stack I really like. I'm going to go down and Elit Tunis real quick. I got that CB for completing that mission. Tunis isn't particularly hard to fight, and I'm pretty strong. So let's sell some guys to his capital, give him the nice barrage assault, call his navy there. Yeah, this should be a super, super easy war. It's a fairly simple war. I just need 60 war score, so go do that. Now he's an Elit, and I'll complete a mission as well for me. Turns it into a core Elit. Can also do this next mission here, which can allow me to Elit Morocco. Morocco's kind of already dead, though. But we might as well just quickly Elit Morocco while we're here. He doesn't really have any chance of survival. He has no forts. Finish up admin here. You get advisor cost policy with admin and espionage. One of my favorites. fact, I have a ton of money. I could repay most of my loans. Okay, not quite all, but most of them. I'm going to work on getting another 20,000 guys out. I'm at the max Janissary, so I can't do any more of those. That's okay. We'll just fill those in. Do another 12-4. Take a loan. No big deal. I like it. So we have 80,000 guys now. So go ahead and ALIT Morocco. Just a pretty quick war. Pretty easy to ALIT those guys generally. Go ahead and summon the diet. Go ahead and sell titles again and seize land. Again, just as long as I can keep above 20, then I'm happy. And I think I can get out of debt completely with that. So we can start building some buildings, kind of see what we can build. Some nice production buildings here. See if we have some, so we can start building a couple churches as well. It's good to me. So we're a pretty thriving nation at this point. Go ahead and sail back to Europe now. I can probably divert trade if I want from these new subjects. And I can probably afford level 3 advisors at least at all times now, as I have the quite a good reduction from espionage and the policy. Let's go for a quick war against Venice. Shouldn't be very difficult. We have a nice navy. We can call in Poland even, sure. So this is going to be a bit of an overkill war, looks like. If you get an event like this, where you lose corruption, you can go ahead and just debase. So you get a bit of money and then you can click the event and it'll just go away. It's a little handy trick. It allows us to build a few more buildings, kind of scale up our economy. Our tech's looking pretty good. We're 878. I guess I lost my cores on Albania. I was a little too slow. I should have gone for that war next. Not a huge deal, just a little bit of a mistake. I dev up Morocco just a little bit so I can rein him in. I don't really need him to be helping in wars. I'd rather that he, we'll like him divert trade now. A nice event here, which gives us some idea cost, tech cost. I'm just going to take one province from Venice so I can justify invasion him in a minute. I'll show you guys what that looks like and how that works. We're just going to take this province here. And I'm going to war with the Papal States. Mainly I'm doing this so I can kill Albania without fighting France. But I will start building a spy network with Venice because we're going to invasion him. And I'm just going to go ahead and annex Albania. I should have done that a bit earlier because of the reconquest situation. I lost my cores actually. So a little bit of a mistake there, but not a huge problem. We got a mission here done, pushing to the north. And this mission here is done because we took Moldavia, and it's really a nice mission. It gives you plus 25% income from vassals for 25 years. So you're going to be pretty rich. So I'm making just an outrageous amount of money for my vassals now, nearly 40 a month. And I'm not even going too crazy with the vassals. So I'm going to go ahead and just take one province from the Papal States. That way we could justify invasion on him later. Similar to what we're doing with Venice. Got my tech all cut up, so I'm 8s across the board, looking really good. And I'll ally to Bohemia. He's an elector, but also he seems like a pretty good ally because he's got Burgundy inherited. Go ahead and recruit up another 20,000 guys. We have 100,000 guys total, not too bad. I'm going to start building a claim against Genoa for justified invasion. I'll go ahead and promote Merchant Guild's bookkeeping. This is just let you reduce inflation cheaper, so we can get rid of our inflation. Helps it with our economy. We do make a lot of money, so we could probably upgrade our advisor to a 5 here as well. Do that when we have a bit more cash. So I'll go ahead and justify invasion on Venice, and this is only a 5-year CB, so we do have to use the CB pretty fast. And our truce expires in about a year. Go ahead and declare on Akyunlu. This is a pretty easy war. I got a random event to give me a 656. I guess that makes up for my heir that died earlier. Ottomans just get cracked rulers, which makes them so good. I'm just gonna have Shervin and Newell with a gem. I'm gonna go ahead and declare invasion on Venice. We'll call on our allies. Should be super easy though. We can put our ruler in our army since we have a nice heir. Kind of want him to die. Let's go ahead and peace out the Great Horde. Just fight peace is fine. Could have got some money, but really we're not struggling with money, so not a big deal. But go ahead and fully annex this guy. For the invasion CB, I recommend opening the ledger and looking at the country page, which is page 2, and just sort by development. And anything below 150, you can't invasion CB. But if you can get them below 150, you should be good. We got a mission done here, which will give us more claims. So this mission tree is fantastic. It's very, very powerful. I'm gonna go ahead and justify invasion on the Papal States. Got my Diplo tech to 9, so we're really looking good on tech. I got a nice decision here I could take that gives me missionary strength and negative tech cost. And we can also grab more manpower if we wanted to. We're kind of already capped though, but anytime we wanted it, we could have a big supply of manpower waiting for us. That's why Sunni is probably the most OP religion. What's really broken about this CB is that you don't actually have to get full war score to get them as a vassal. It kind of ignores that mechanic. Like it doesn't have the negative modifier for like annexed. So I don't know why that's the case, but that's just how it is. Just go and ALIT Venice and money, and we can improve relations with them. We want to check our AE before we go into the next war in Europe. Again, it's smart to go back and forth in Europe. Don't want to spend too much time here, but I think we can sneak one more war here, so we might as well do that. I'm going to continue to build buildings. I have lots of money laying around, lots of churches, lots of workshops. We could start building our government buildings too. And we're once again able to sell titles and then seize land. I'm going to upgrade this great project here to rank 1. I'm going to use manpower because we have our manpower buff here. We might as well take advantage of that. So slacken and then click our buff, which gives us 82k manpower. And then we'll go ahead and turn off slacken. This great project does provide that 10 advisor cost, so that's pretty helpful. We're kind of stacking those. You can see we're not really paying that much, even for level 5. She might be half off, though, here, but even so, we're not paying too much for these other advisors either. Maybe we can even get our advisors all the rank 5 would be pretty helpful. So we have 5s across the board. I'm going to declare the Ottoman Campaign of Conquest on the Papal States next, and this is from the Invasion CP. And occasionally you'll get a nasty event here where the Janissaries want something. I would just say never and deal with the rebels. So I'm just going to get my guys ready to fight on Constantinople, and I'll hit never. These are the type of rebels that you have to chase them down, like Pretenders. So just be ready to do that. Easy wins. So pretty easy war there, and it's not very aggressive because it's this special CB. That's always helpful. So now alienated the Papal States. Their color doesn't change because I don't really know why they're entitled. I'm going to dev Venice a bit so he's a bit loyal. That'll influence him. And you can always trade favors for trust to get more loyalty. You get a ton of favors when people are aelids. Now I'm going to reign in Venice. Perfect. You like to reign in all your aelids. It's helpful. When you can. We'll make him divert trade, though. Probably should collect in Venice. Yeah, we can make quite a bit. You see we make 76 ducats a month, though. Our income is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there, guys. I could do a lot more. I could go for dismantle the tree, but I don't want to make this guide overly long or overly complicated. We make 74 ducats a month. It's 1508, and we're in a super strong position to do whatever we want, really. Anyhow, let me know if you guys enjoyed this beginner-friendly guide. But as always, thanks for watching, and have a good one.